With Rachel Reeves taxing everything and everybody in sight, what is the point of working hard and being aspirational?
Right, so you sound pretty fed.
Yeah, she's taxing everything in sight. Get wrecked.
With a very small tax change. Like, again, like, I hate this narrative where it's like, well, we're taxed to smithereens. I'm like, tax takes a percentage of GDP is like 38, 39%. It's like more than 10% lower than France. Like, come on. We'll get some real problems. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
And it also means that you will get more public services back from the extra tax that you pay. Like, that's the whole point of taxation. The idea that somehow because you're working, that money just fucking disappears into the ether. No, like, the public realm expands and you get to use it.
And even if you go private, the people who live around you don't. And trust me, you don't want them descending into anarchy, because that will make you a lot poorer.
No, it's fine. Like, I don't want to pay to stop homeless people living on the street. I love it when I see homeless people in the street. It makes my country just much more vibrant place to live.
I like Warren Buffett's description of it. He said, I don't mind paying taxes. I consider it an insurance policy against guillotines.
Yeah, literally.
Fair point, actually.
With the budget, which we heard only yesterday. James, obviously I'm going to come to you, but I'm just going to go around the panel a little bit first. Luke, what's the point of working hard and being aspirational? That's what Emma thinks.
Yeah, it's very depressing, isn't it, Emma? And I'm afraid this was a budget for people who receive welfare and benefits, and not for working people, which I thought the Labour Party was for. The truth is they've increased taxes, they are increasing debt, they're increasing unemployment.
See, I would now boycott Gale's Bakery if I knew what that was.
I think it's Greg's for posh people.
Oh, okay.
That's basically what it is. Well, what's so frustrating, right? This idea that it was for benefits rather than work. It was mostly for fiscal headroom, not for benefits. And second of all, 40% of people who claim universal credit are in work. This is what's so frustrating, right? Is that if you are one of the wankers who live in our media ecosystem, you don't know this because you don't know anyone on benefits. You don't know anyone on low pay. Because if you did, you'd know that people on low pay have to claim help from the state. And it's wankers like this bellend who own the businesses, who are extracting far more surplus value from their workers than is ever being taken in tax, who are paying people so low that they have to claim universal credit on their low wages. Like, you are the ones being subsidised by the state, not benefit scroungers.
Yeah.
And things feel pretty bleak. I cannot remember a time in 40 years in business in this country where investors and entrepreneurs and employers are as demoralised as they are.
Oh no, won't someone think of the entrepreneur? Well, you know what they could do? Pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
They could. I think it's inward investment to this country is higher than it was under austerity. Like, the big thing that you saw from the austerity period was a massive dearth of private investment because they couldn't see a return. Because what were they going to make a return on when people can't spend any money, right? Minimum wage is going up. The people with the highest propensity for consumption are going to see their incomes increase. And that's going to be able to put more money into people buying the shit that these people want to sell them.
They said their priority was growth. There is no growth. There's only spending and more borrowing and higher taxes and higher regulation. And this will not have a good ending. It's not how prosperous and happy societies become that way. And the government needs to think a lot harder about spending our taxpayer money wisely and not disproportionately burdening us with tax and regulation and gloom.
What would you like to have seen?
I would have liked to have seen, for example, a wholesale rethink of our disastrous energy policies. We have the highest energy costs.
So he's a freak. Why is he on the panel? Why is he here?
The irony is, of course, is that he isn't wrong in the abstract. We do have bad energy policy. We do have the highest energy costs of any kind of major economy, especially for industrial energy.
Right, but he thinks it's down to net stupid zero.
Well, yeah, he does, right? That's where he becomes wrong. And in fact, it's the total opposite. Is the fact that our country is entirely dependent on low gas prices, which will never last forever. Well, they didn't last forever because look what happened after the war in Ukraine. Rather than be entirely reliant on ourselves by having homegrown, home-owned power. The issue is the government aren't putting enough investment into clean power, and they're not putting enough public ownership into clean power. They're doing public-private partnerships, which will rely on market incentives to invest, rather than what we could have, which was state-owned energy, which we can maximise the low cost of energy, because it doesn't matter whether it turns a profit or not. We can have energy abundance, which will reach a point with private investment where they don't think they'll make a return and they'll stop investing. That's why Ørsted didn't build a big wind farm off the coast of Norwich, or Norfolk, sorry, at the last round of contracts for clean energy. That's a problem with energy privatisation and the incentivisation of gas power because of marginal cost pricing. These are all things that we could fix if we had the political will to do so. We just don't.
True. And yeah, him talking about things being too expensive and all the rest of it. You know, they charge £5 for a sausage roll at Gale's Bakery.
A £5? A £5?
A full bluey, a 5-piece.
What?
For a fucking sausage roll. Yeah, there's a reason I've never heard of it or shopped there in my fucking life. I would literally rather starve to death than fucking eat a £5's hot. No, that's not. That is immoral to charge that amount.
Whoa! Hang on a minute, chat. This is obscene. I'm sorry. Chocolate almond croissant, £4. Christmas bun, £4.60. 8 cinnamon buns, £28.
Fuck off.
I'm reliving the moment.
Anyone who can afford to do that, can afford to eat that kind of food, needs to be taxed so much higher than they currently are. That's ridiculous.
Greek yogurt with blueberry and blackcurrant compote, £4.50. Breakfast pot bundle, £54.
Oh, what the fuck is? Unless that's an ocean of porridge, what the fuck is that?
One thing you keep hearing from these kind of sectors is we can't afford to not charge this because we've got high staff costs. Greggs the bakers charge £1.40 for a sausage roll. Yeah. They charge £2 for a steak bake. Pound Bakery charges even less. But for all of Greggs' problems, at the very least, they're an expanding chain with good profit margins who have employee share ownership packages and a generous bonus for staff at Christmas, right? Like, they're not a bad employer. Yeah. To say the least, right? They don't cut back in terms of giving back to their staff. If they can do it, fucking Gales can, without charging £5 for a fucking sausage roll.
For business of any comparable country, net zero is destroying our manufacturing industry. And without a manufacturing industry, we can never defend ourselves because we'll have no defence industry.
Sonia.
So I think what we saw in the budget was a product of the fact that growth is looking extremely sluggish, as Luke just said. Unfortunately, this is a long-term issue in the British economy. So I think 2008, the financial crisis, really exposed the lack of productivity in the British economy in areas other than the city and financial services. And that the truth is that no government has sorted that out since. Living standards have been pretty much stagnant since 2008, and that impacts on each and every person in this audience, and it's why things feel really hard and people feel like they don't have much money left over at the end of the month. I think Labour's mistake was to go into the last election saying, vote for us and we'll fix it all within 5 years and things will be feeling great. I, as somebody on the centre-left, saw them say that.
You're not, and they didn't. They said basically nothing.
Yeah.
And any policies they actually did have, they've gone back on, including the workers' rights from day one thing, which is now going to be 6 months.
There's the second manifesto break in a week.
And thought that's not a great promise to make, because you don't look at where the British economy is and fix that within 18 months or even 5 years. So what we saw in the budget was Rachel Reeves thinking that she wants to do these extra things. Personally, I do really support lifting the two-child benefit cap, because over the last 15 years...
And now Labour are like, see, we're lifting kids out of poverty. Forgetting, of course, that they've kept them in that poverty for 18 months.
Exactly.
Thanks.
We have seen child poverty go up in this country at a rate much faster than in other OECD and EU countries. And that is something we have to address. But the problem is, because we're not growing, there isn't money around to fix it. And that's why taxes had to go up. And that is really difficult. And it's difficult for everyone in this audience. What I wish, and I think this is true of both Labour and the Conservatives, is that we have political parties who are more honest and went into the last election saying, things are really tough. There are tough trade-offs here. If we want to be a country that doesn't send kids to school hungry, if we want a great NHS, we are going to have to pay for it, and that involves some difficult trade-offs. And I think that's kind of where Labour went wrong, because they didn't tell us about these trade-offs before the election. But sure enough, they are here, and we're facing them.
Man in the blue sweater.
Not wrong.
Yeah, the problem with what Sonia's just said is that this budget and the previous budget contain a load of measures that will massively hamper growth. It's going to reduce tax take overall, more people are going to be unemployed, and it's going to make things worse.
What's he referring to here?
Yeah,
like, what have they done that's anti-growth?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, honestly,
Probably even increase child poverty.
Okay, man in the blue shirt.
yes. Getting rid of the 2-child benefit cap will definitely increase child poverty, and I definitely believe that you want to reduce child poverty.
James, so you're getting criticism from right and left here. We've only heard from 2 people so far, but they're not, and Emma, and they're not particularly happy.
Well, let me start with what we were trying to achieve with the budget and then explain why we took some of the decisions that we took. What the Chancellor was trying to achieve with the budget when she set it out in the House of Commons this week was to cut the cost of living, to cut NHS waiting lists, and to...
Oh God, he sounds so briefcase. Even if I couldn't see him, I'd think he looks a bit like he looks. He sounds like a failed orgasm.
A sentient briefcase is really... He's just a briefcase come to life. He literally is that.
Yeah.
cut government borrowing. Those were our priorities going into the budget because we think they're priorities for the country. And, you know, we need to be honest that the challenges we face are large. There is instability around the world, which we know has been growing over the course of the last year. But also, as Sonia referred to, there are some long-term challenges when it comes to productivity in our country. And the report that the Office of Budget Responsibility put out alongside the budget shows the impact on productivity from the previous government. So the result of all of the austerity and the way Brexit was mishandled and so on, that's had a lasting impact on our productivity and on our growth.
I thought you were going to make Brexit work.
Yeah. What happened there?
I mean, yeah, like, turns out we're not actually doing that, because it turns out a lot of these things didn't work for an import-dependent service economy, and we are like £90 billion worse off because of it.
True.
And what's your fix?
I don't know. Nothing, basically.
Tax revenue. So we had to take some choices going into this budget. Now, we could have gone down the route of uncontrolled borrowing, but we're not going to do that. We could have gone down the route of slashing investment in infrastructure, all the investment we're putting into energy and transport and research and development, but we decided not to do that because...
You could have gone down the route of raising income tax.
Because one of the reasons why we're in such a difficult place as a country in terms of productivity is because there hasn't been that investment for so many years. So that's why we took some fair, some necessary decisions when it comes to taxation to make sure that the budget
you could have, James, forgive me for interrupting, but you could have raised income tax. You've got the Resolution Foundation saying actually that would have raised more money and been fairer, but you'd boxed yourself into a corner. Well,
what we did in the budget when it comes to our decisions on tax was that, yes, we asked everyone to make a contribution. The extension of the thresholds, freezes, that's not something we hid away in the budget. The Chancellor said that up front, that we're asking everyone to make a contribution, but we are keeping that contribution from working people as low as we possibly can by taking other choices about where to raise tax revenue, whether that's from income from property or savings or dividends, income from people who have homes worth £2 million or more, income from the gambling sector. We took those decisions to keep the taxes on working people as low as possible. And if I can just say that, you know, because of the decisions we took in the budget, what we were able to do on cutting the cost of living is take £150 off people's energy bills, freeze rail fares, freeze prescription charges. When it comes to the NHS, we're able to keep cutting waiting lists. There have been 5.2 million extra appointments already this year, and we've announced plans for 250 neighbourhood health centres. And crucially, we've been able to cut government borrowing.
Has there been any clapping? So no, not a single set of hands has come together.
The irony, of course, is this is the sensible, like, centre-right European conservative politics that the country keeps telling us that they want, right?
Yeah.
Like, normal stuff of we want to ensure that we maximise productivity and we're going to ensure that we get borrowing overall down and we have a health sector that is functioning. Like, none of this is radical this is just what a centre-right government that was honest with the public would do in any normal European country. Except we don't live in a normal European country. We live in fucking normal Ireland. He's not wrong in saying that they did, tax gambling and the mansion tax, right? And most of that covered the cost of the removal of the 2-child cap on universal credit.
Yeah.
All of the taxes that were put on quote-unquote working people, that all went to increasing the fiscal headroom.
Yeah, pretty much.
Every 10 of taxpayers' money is spent on servicing the interest on debt, just the interest on debt, 1 in every £10 of taxpayers' money. We want to change that so that taxpayers' money can be spent on schools, police, hospitals, on your priorities.
I suppose my concern is that I feel like there's been no immediate relief for what the Labour talk about the working person. I describe myself as that. I think I do okay. I'm not hard up. I wouldn't mind things like lifting the 2-child benefit cap, but really when I look at the budget, I don't see anything that benefits me immediately in the short term, and that's quite disappointing.
All right. Man in the... no, it's actually, I'll come to you in a minute. There's a man with the black top on first, further back.
Yeah, I just feel we're in a vicious circle and don't feel like we're kind of going to get out of this because there's nothing in the budget which is going to really drive productivity or economic growth. So we really need to kind of find ways and mechanisms to kind of get ourselves out of this.
Okay. And yes, the man here towards the front, yeah.
Yeah, so that is really explaining my fear as well. The autumn 2024 budget was a budget for growth. Growth was very anemic. This budget is also supposed to be delivering growth, but when we look at the OBR forecast, very little growth coming out of this budget as well.
The OBR needs to be destroyed.
It really does. I mean, like, who knows? It's a fucking random prediction that they've made based upon nothing. Like, most of their growth downgrade was because they think that it's going to be a more turbulent international market, which it probably will be. But how do you know how much growth that's going to mean? That anything could happen. There could be a productivity gain out of nowhere. There could be a massive fucking exogenous shock that changes all of this. It's nonsense making these stupid predictions and having the fiscal rules be set on those predictions as well. Waste of everyone's fucking time. Waste of everyone's energy. And all it does is just put more doom and gloom into the economy, which ironically will reduce growth in the long term, you know?
Also, why have they got Guy Gomer in to ask a question?
So where do we go? Because we know that growth is the only way out of this doom loop we're in, and growth is not coming. So it looks like next year we'll be coming back for more tax increases to fund.
So I'm going to come to you both in a minute, but let's just talk about growth for a minute, because the Office of Budget Responsibility could not find an increase in growth by a single measure. I mean,
But they could find half an hour to leak the information before the budget was announced. So that's nice. Good
Adults.
For them. Yeah, adults in the room. Also, like, let's be honest, it's clearly the OBR that wrote the fucking thing. So had she technically, did they release it half an hour before she was allowed to see it? Is that how it works? I don't know anymore.
it's going to increase this year and then keep on going down. This was a central mission of the Labour government. Where is it?
Well, this year's growth forecast has been revised upwards by the OBR. So
And then-
the OBR,
then
Hang on,
downwards
let me
thereafter.
explain this, because the growth forecast that the OBR said was going to happen this year was 1%. We've outperformed those expectations. It's now 1.5%. In future years, we were talking about...
So you mean the prediction that they made in the past was wrong? They're always fucking wrong.
If you really want to look at a measure that's impacting overall productive capacity and is going to negatively impact growth, is the fact that net immigration was down to 200k.
Yep.
One of the biggest increases in productive capacity over the last fucking 15 years has been the increase in labour capacity, because we have more people here working and paying taxes and producing products. If we hadn't had immigration during this period, we would have been in permanent recession.
challenge, which the OBR have highlighted, having built up under the previous government, that affects the productivity in the country and that determines the forecast. But we are not going to let this country be defined by the failures of the previous government.
So how
We're
do
gonna
you
make
justify,
sure-
how do you
Let me
justify
tell-
that? No, hang on. How do you justify the budget, given that growth was a central mission of the government? You've already heard Luke's criticisms. The OBR says there is not a single individual measure in this budget expected to materially increase economic growth. How is that anything other than utterly disappointing?
So the OBR have a threshold for individual measures, and without going into the technical detail of what that means in practice, I would point you to certain key measures in the budget which will help growth. Number one, I spoke earlier about investment in energy, in roads, in railways, in research and development. That investment is crucial to leveraging in private investment, to improving our productivity, and to helping to get growth up in our country. We also introduced tax breaks for companies who are scaling up and growing and want to stay in the UK and make a success here. Those tax incentives to make sure those businesses stay and grow here. And we're also making sure that that focus on creating growth is in every part of the UK. So whether that's in Grangemouth in Scotland, Wilfer in Wales, whether that's the Oxford-Cambridge Growth Corridor or the Northern Growth Corridor, right across Britain. Because the only way to make sure that people in every part of the country feel the benefits of growth is to have that growth in every part of the UK so that people right across the country feel better off.
And how, tell us, is the Employment Rights Bill going to help growth? It's unquestionably going to damage it. I see it every day with business people I talk to. It's all putting them off staying here. There is a huge, unprecedented exodus of talent and wealth and capital leaving the country because they are so put off by your obsession.
Okay, and where's the patriotism there?
The only place that these people belong is the gulag. This is the only place these people belong.
True lag. Yeah.
Honestly, you make me Prime Minister, chat. I will send all of these business bellends who throw a fucking temper tantrum when they have to treat their workers like human beings rather than fucking slaves. And I'll send them to Golly Otok tomorrow. I'll do that, and we'll expropriate the businesses and make them work around. Because, again, it's so frustrating that they're trying to claim it be anti-growth. I mean, like, what would be better for growth than making sure that people who are working people are more productive because they feel like they have a stake in society, rather than being treated like numbers by business owners extracting huge amounts of their surplus value, who would then also have more money in their pockets to go and spend in the economy to buy the products that those businesses are creating. This idea that somehow you'll have no growth if you have good workers' rights, right? Is there low growth in Denmark, in Norway, in Sweden, in Finland, where they have much better unionization and workers' rights than we do? Of course there isn't. Norway is growing significantly faster than we are, because the working people of Norway feel like that it's actually worth going to work, rather than in the UK, where you have shitty gig economy jobs, where you don't have good pensions anymore, where you don't have good workplace rights, and companies can hire and fire you at a fucking moment's notice, right? You have no incentive to be productive. Actually get workers buying into their workplaces is a much better way of incentivizing them to be more productive, which is a big problem in our economy at the moment. Yet it's motherfuckers like this who will kneecap growth so that they can peel every single penny out of the hard-working and miserated people of this country, so they can throw that into massive asset values and live off of all of those assets forever as quote-unquote passive income, i.e. income stolen from working people.
With the public sector, barely a single one of your MPs has ever even worked in the private sector, let alone run a business. You have no idea or interest in the whole way in which wealth is created and innovation and exports. How are we going to live if all we're interested in ever is the public sector?
All right, I'll come back to you, James.
I'm sorry, what? Like, we have been systematically demolishing the private sector for 46 years. But all we ever talk about as the private sector is the corollary to we never talk about immigration, when the opposite is manifestly true.
Yeah, the idea that this government are too focused on the public sector is ludicrous.
It's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And, like, the idea that you need to have worked in the private sector to understand how these things work is nonsensical. And also, yeah, there are people in the Labour Party who've worked in the private sector, mostly as workers, not enough of them. There's too many lobbyists and political operators. Granted, that is true. But the previous governments that were Tories were all full of business bellends and bankers and financiers and private sector people. Did they do good for the country? Well, look at, everything kind of gesturing broadly at society, and the answer is obviously no.
Rishi Sunak was the richest fucking prime minister we've ever had, and he didn't inherit that money. He do his business and all the rest of it. He got a good start in life or whatever.
Goldman Sachs.
Although, of course, he didn't have Sky when he was a kid, so clearly he was impoverished beyond belief. like Tiny Tim or some shit, fucking coughing up blood. And he was fucking terrible. So, the idea that having a business person running what isn't a business is a good idea is not necessarily true.
There'll be more consistency. Gareth.
Look, governing is hard, as Labour are finding out, and I think we all accept that we all have to pay tax. That is a given. But you have to pay less tax if you can grow the economy or you can cut spending. And as James said, as the Chancellor has said, this is about choices. And the choice that the Chancellor has made this week, and actually with the budget last year, is to increase taxes by £66 billion since the election, and basically increase welfare spending. And part of that is the two-child benefit cap removal, but it's also other benefits that are going up too. And I think that's where the public take
pause.
the big...
Which one's going up? What's going up by the most? What's going up by more than every other benefit combined? Do you want to enlighten us, please, Mr. Tory, about which thing in the welfare spending is going up the most by the most percentage and the most significant nominal amount? I'll give you a clue. It was a policy that you passed, the Conservative Party did in 2010.
Put answers on a postcard, chat.
I mean, it's also worth pointing out, in that same budget where they instituted the triple lock, which is what I'm talking about, they also froze child benefit and they capped housing benefit as well.
Yeah.
They weren't told this before the election. It's a perfectly reasonable position to have, by the way, to make that choice, and we can debate that. But to not tell people before the election when you're trying to win votes, I think is unacceptable. There are times when you...
It's not so much not telling the election, it's actually promising something different, which is saying that we are not going to raise taxes.
Exactly, that's basically my point. They went into the election saying that they would raise taxes by 8 billion, wouldn't put taxes up on working people, wouldn't raise national insurance, wouldn't raise income tax, and actually wouldn't remove the cap, the two-child benefit cap. That wasn't in the manifesto either. And so I think that's why people are quite angry at the moment. They didn't know that this was what they would do, and I think Labour intended it all along, I'm afraid. And so we have a situation now where we've got historic levels of taxation that is going to slow growth. Growth has been downgraded, compared to the March 2024 forecasts. It's being downgraded. Growth has been downgraded by the IMF, the OECD, the BOE, the IFS. By
other organisations were just shit. Awesome. Cool.
And also worth pointing out, the biggest reason they cite to downgrade growth is international factors. Like, wow, I can't believe the people who were elected to government when the USA was doing normal policy, not like perfect policy, but like normal policy, and we're just fucking trying to tank the global economy for geopolitical reasons. Maybe other countries that are trading favourably with the United States would have higher growth under that model than when Donald Trump is in office. You know, the biggest downgrade really to growth is coming from Donald Trump and nothing to do with what the Labour Party are doing, you know?
Well, the Penguins seem to have managed it okay.
Now, I think every letter in the alphabet has criticised this Labour government's economic management. And so it is not acceptable to people, and I completely understand the anger with this.
Man in the grey sweater.
My point to make here is that we are tinkering with lots of little taxes, and it's costing...
That is a delightful combination of old Pakistani and posh British man as an accent.
Honestly, it's incredible. Like, what I love so much is that people talk about like lack of integration, and we just have the best integration.
Yeah.
We have so many communities like this where there's this unique accent, because the UK has preserved so much of our historic regional accents because we've not been invaded for 1,000 years or whatever it is, and it's so perfect that it shows the level to which this integration has worked so well. Because you have like this incredible, like the Bradford Desi accent is it's incredible.
Yeah,
it's a thing of beauty. It really is.
Absolutely magical.
The Exchequer, a lot of money to collect that tax. An example I can give, I'm getting winter fuel allowance, and then they're going to take it out of my tax. So instead of 200 that they would have had, which I was happy to give, they'll probably get 180. Doesn't make sense. Yeah. They need to look at it in the most efficient way of tax collection as well, not anything else.
Okay, there's a couple of people further back. Yes, the man sort of in the middle, yes, with the glasses.
In the last election, Labour refused to provide any detail on what was in the manifesto, agreeing with James, and they've since overridden a manifesto commitment in the last two budgets, and have even ditched another manifesto commitment today. So what is the value of the manifesto?
Right, we'll
You
come.
just can't
Not
believe
wrong.
what,
It's not
what
wrong.
was in it.
I do think that that's a question.
I mean, that's what's really important, right? Is that you can make a case for higher taxation. You can make a change for a broader reworking of the social contract in terms of what people expect to pay and what people expect to get from the state. These are all things that are reasonable questions to ask, and ones that I think I would, I'm closer to the Labour position on this than I am the Conservative position is, purely on the grounds of being significantly to the left of the Labour Party, right? But there's arguments for and against, and I think pretty strong arguments for. But unless you make those arguments to the electorate in your manifesto, unless you give people the choice to vote for it, unless you are very clear in the run-up to the election that this is what you are getting elected to do, you can't do that. Like, you need to do those things pre-election to get buy-in for the public. For two reasons.
Are you suggesting that Keir Starmer is a liar?
A proven morally corrupt serial liar, of course.
Yeah.
And because there's two big problems. First of all is that it fundamentally undermines democracy. It's an undermining of the democratic process. And second of all, is that it will negatively polarize people towards the kind of social contract change that you want to make. If you're trying to force it on the public, not only will they hate you for being anti-democratic, they will hate the thing you're trying to do, as they feel that it's something that can only be pushed through by hoodwinking the public rather than with public consent. And that's really dangerous for whatever kind of pitch they're trying to roll here.
Mm. Also, why does that guy look like Asian Harry Hill?
Giant collar.
Yeah, the giant collar, the specs, the bald. That's Harmeet Hill.
That we can put to all parties, though, because if you look at the Conservative spending plans under Jeremy Hunt, I'm sorry, but the Institute for Fiscal Studies looked at them and thought they were completely ludicrous as well. And I don't think there's any question that if the Conservatives were in government, they would be facing exactly the same crunch. Some of that extra welfare spending that Gareth is talking about is driven, 34 billion of it is driven by the triple lock on the state pension. That's something that...
Whoa, someone said it. Someone said the thing. You're not supposed to say the thing.
Conservative government supports as well. So let's be clear, this isn't just on one party. The IFS said going into the last election, neither party is being honest with us about the tough trade-offs here, and both of them are going to the election with spending plans that don't stack up. So I think it's important to be clear, it's both parties.
And again, it's worth pointing out. That this was specifically called by the IFS a conspiracy of silence, and they weren't wrong to call it. And the press barely mentioned it to the parties and to try and get them to admit this stuff before the election. The only person, and literally the only person who was trying to force Labour and Tories to be honest about the conspiracy of silence was fucking Stephen Flynn. We had to rely on somebody who is responsible as part of a party for, 5% of the population or something, to get people who wanted to be responsible for the whole population to be honest about basic tax and spend policy.
So I voted for Labour because I think I was sick of just the craziness of Truss and Johnson. I think it was good, and I think there's sensible people in power now, but we are looking for a bit more hope and growth, and I don't see the big ideas coming from Labour right now, but I think that's the opportunity for you guys to really look at that.
The man at the back with the white shirt and dark sweater, yeah.
The people don't really want a lot. They want their bins collected on time. They want to go...
Yeah, fucking tell me about it, bruv. Yeah.
to go to the doctors, get a dentist appointment, save a bit of money and go on holiday every year. And unfortunately, this Labour government, you're not...
This guy says, people just want their bins collected when they go and see the doctor. Okay, do you want to pay for that? Would you like to pay the tax that's required to have those public services that work?
No, only public service, no tax.
Literally, this is the world that we live in. They go, people just want to have public services that work. Okay, do you want to fund public services that work?
No. I'd like to have my cake and also have eaten that cake, but still have that cake, please. Thank you.
Literally, and this is the attitude of so many voters. Like I said about the triple lock recipients who are going, we would very much like ever-increasing pension provision, but we also want no immigration and no two-child benefit cap removal, which would help people have more families, to have the people that we need to have the birth rates to fund pensions in the future.
It's a phenomenally infantile way of viewing the world, frankly. Can we only ever have good thing and never ever have any bad thing? Please. No, That's obviously not how any of this fucking works. Reality does not work this way. If you want a good thing, you have to make a good thing happen.
hope.
In this case, by paying your fucking taxes. Everyone pays taxes. It goes into a common pot. We get services out of it.
I mean, to say truth, the government spends money and then it requires taxation to ensure that we don't have an inflationary spiral due to the increasing circulation of currency, right?
Okay, but you know what I mean, that one lead directly leads to the other, basically.
Yeah, like, I mean, the reality is the same, right? Is that you need to have some level of taxation to deal with government spending. It's just the dynamic, the chicken comes before the egg rather than the other way around.
I'd like to know from Labour who they mean when they talk about working people, because it seems to me that it's the working people that have suffered the most in this budget. I've got 2 kids that are 27, nearly 29, who are both working. They've got no chance of ever moving out of home in the immediate future because housing so expensive. They've got huge, ridiculous debt from their student fees, where they're paying the most outrageous interest rates.
Right, okay, pause. I mean, this is all true, right? And, of course, those people will pay higher taxes because fiscal drag will drag them into higher tax bands. Therefore, as working people, they will pay more. That's as simple as that. It's a manifesto break as far as I'm concerned, especially since they promised that they wouldn't extend it further in previous budgets too. But regardless, who were the ones who fucked student finance into the sun? Who are the ones who didn't reform planning to build more houses? Who are the ones who sold off the council houses? Who are the ones that engaged in a poor quantitative easing plan that put more money into asset values, therefore making houses even more unaffordable? Well, that was the Conservatives. That was the Tories that did all of that.
Slash the Liberal Democrats as well.
Slash the Liberal Democrats, and to a lesser extent, I guess, New Labour. Now, for all of, again, like, obviously Labour are now making it so that more people have to repay their student loans at the exorbitant rate. They're not fixing student finance, so that's bad. They are not building enough council housing, although their planning reforms will at least mean more houses get built to try and arrest the increase in house prices, right? If your concern is that kids are paying exorbitant student loan costs and can't get on the housing ladder, I don't think you can really blame a year-old government for this.
No.
For all of their faults, rather than the 14 years, or 46 years preceding this, that turned housing into assets and education into a commodity.
Yeah, the half century of Thatcherite fuckery has a lot more to do with it than 18 months of Keir Starmer being ineffective.
The interest rates that they're paying. And, you know, this budget to me seems to be helping the people that are not employed and don't seem to have any likelihood of being employed at any time in the future.
Listen, James, a lot of questions.
What's that based on?
I mean, again, she's referring to people who are on universal credit. Again, 40% of whom are in work.
Yeah.
40% of people who are claiming universal credit are in work, so that's wrong. What she probably isn't referring to there is the state pension, who are not likely to go into work in future. They will never work again because they are past retirement age. That's the reality of where most of the extra welfare spend is going. So it is a transfer of wealth. It is a transfer of income from working people to people who don't work, but it's from working age people to pension age people. That's the biggest transfer that's going on here. And even then, most of the increase in that is going to fiscal headroom, not even going to any excess spending.
It's going directly from the pockets of people who are actually in work to P&O cruises. Old people to spend their time in the Caribbean, basically.
Wait, just before I put them to you, what I noticed after the budget was that the Labour MPs on the backbenches seemed pretty cock-a-hoop with how it was going. So a lot of waving of order papers and some accusations coming towards Keir Starmer that he was putting satisfying the party ahead of satisfying the country. So far, this bit of the country doesn't seem particularly satisfied. Is there anyone here?
Oh no, Watford doesn't like it. Oh,
well, again, like, they were waving their papers around about the removal of the 2-child cap on universal credit, and it was like, if you don't get rid of it, everyone who's clapping the people attacking Labour for removing the 2-child cap would pay more in tax later at the expense of all of the fucking immiserated children growing into unproductive adults reliant on the welfare state and the NHS.
If you will put your hands on just for a sec, and then obviously put them back up again, but is there anyone here who felt the budget was good and will help them? Yes.
2 people.
2 hands, so let's hear from you. Yes, woman here in the front.
Yes, I felt it was a good budget. I felt that, you know, it was making the people that can afford it pay more, and the people that can't afford it, you know, we're going to have more money to help look after them. The world is in a difficult situation. I think we've got a government that maybe was a bit naive, saying that they would never put up income tax, but I don't think it was a deliberate lie that we've had from past governments in their manifesto promises.
Oh, come on. Come on, don't be like that. Don't give them the benefit of the doubt. It's clear that this breaks the manifesto commitment. They are paying more in tax. Working people are paying more in tax. It's not the same as the fiscal drag that was already there, that was up to 2027, because that was already in the Conservative government spending plans that they also said that they would keep, right? So that's keeping a manifesto commitment to not change the taxation scheme to make working people pay more. And that scheme was already in place by the Tories. That's not a manifesto break. They extended this when they promised not to. Like, don't give these people the benefit of the doubt. Whilst it's fine to say that the removal of the 2-child limit was good, we here on the left, we all agree with this. But the idea that you can defend what was obviously a form of sleight of hand in terms of wording of the manifesto so let them get away with this, it's nonsense. You don't need to do this to politicians.
No, absolutely, yeah. And don't let them lawyer their way out of breaking pledges. That's ridiculous, yeah.
There were obviously things about the budget that we could all moan about. That's what budgets are for, right? You moan about them. But there are things about the budget that, we can celebrate children being lifted out of poverty, can't we? I mean, that's something that is happening because of the removal of the cap on
two-child
benefit, yeah. And I think it was a good thing that they put extra amounts of tax on people who own properties over £2 million pounds, was it? And then rising for people who own property after that. So, yeah, I support the Labour government in trying to make sure that the wealthiest in this country pay their fair share, and to the extent that the budget did that, I think it was a good thing.
Right, so James, look, there's been a
I don't know, I thought his argument was pretty vacant, to be honest. But...
fair bit of criticism of the budget coming away. Let's deal with a couple of the questions. So one of the questions was asking about manifesto commitments. So the manifesto promised not to raise income tax, VAT or national insurance. In other promises, the Chancellor said last year she wouldn't come back for more taxes. She has. She said that last budget she would not continue a freeze on tax thresholds. She has. And then today, the government's U-turned on another manifesto commitment, unrelated specifically to the budget, but just in terms of broken promises, to offer all workers protection against unfair dismissal from day one. That's gone out the window as well. How can anyone believe what you say?
Well, what it says in our...
They can't.
I mean, again,
no reasonable person can now, I think.
I mean, that's the thing, is that maybe if any journalist at all at any point before now had scrutinised Keir Starmer's entire prospectus as leader of the Labour Party, and the fact that he's literally always been a liar this whole time, from day one of being not even the leader, from the start of the leadership election, and he in the background as a shadow minister in the Labour opposition when Jeremy Corbyn was leader, all he was doing was lying. He was engaged in one kind of conspiracy, quite frankly, in the background with Morgan McSweeney when he was a shadow minister to tank the election. He was then a liar during the leadership election for the Labour Party. He just kept lying about the positions that he'd previously held when he was justifying the new ones in the leadership position, and he lied in the manifesto, and they're lying again now. But because they didn't bother scrutinising his lies because they only affected left-wingers before he became Prime Minister, everyone's just surprised that he's lying again when he's just always been one.
Yeah. Is that true? I mean, it's fine out now, but their latest poll has Labour down at 6 seats.
Depends on which model that you use. Stats for Lefties had them at 12, but yes, the latest Find Out Now poll looks like it puts Labour into sub 20 seats, yeah.
That is ridiculous. Not a majority of six. Look, you'll notice there is no red left there anywhere. But they've got 3 seats clustered in Liverpool, and that's about it. That's
what happens when you spread your vote too thin, right? Whilst it guarantees you a bigger win if you do well. That's the voter efficiency thing, where you have small majorities everywhere. But that also means it only takes a small swing against you to lose a bunch of seats. And because they have lost so many votes in their heartlands by telling the left that the door is open, that they can leave, there's no safe seats for them anymore either. So a big shift in votes doesn't just lead to a loss of an election, it leads to a total collapse of your support everywhere.
Yeah. Oh no, the fleas have left. No. Again, it was their entire bit was no policy, just vote for us.
Yep.
Nope, that's not how that works, mate.
The trots have fled.
Manifesto
True.
Is that we will keep taxes on working people as low as possible. And if you
No,
look at the choices,
pause. No, the manifesto said you will not raise taxes on working people. It didn't say you would keep them as low as possible. It says you wouldn't raise them, and you have.
Yeah.
The fair.
Yeah, just to balance that out for everyone, the find out now are a little dubious, I think. I wouldn't take that as gospel.
I mean, they have the Greens in second in multiple polls. Like, I'm a Green supporter who loves to see it, but I know that it's not true.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised. If you go on the poll of polls, they have the Labour Party on, anywhere between 80 to 120 type seats, that those sorts of numbers, which is still, opposition territory or even third in some cases, but they're not going to end up with 6 seats. That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Hang on a minute. It said you would not raise income tax, national insurance or VAT. A lot more people are going to be paying a lot more income tax as they're dragged into higher tax thresholds.
Yeah, we said we wouldn't increase those rates, and we said we would keep taxes on working people as low as possible. And in the budget, the Chancellor was upfront that we are asking everyone to contribute more because of the threshold freeze extension.
So when she said she wouldn't come back for more, she has. So that's a broken promise.
As some of the people in the audience have said,
literally, yeah.
It's not wrong. Again, it's a promise I wish that they'd not made, because I think it's better that we have higher taxes. But you can't promise to not do it and then do it. Like, it betrays the trust of the electorate. Oh, fun.
Yeah, we are asking those with broader shoulders to make a bigger contribution. So people who have properties worth more than £2 million. We're making some reforms to the taxation of gambling, to electric vehicles, to the way that income from property, for instance, is taxed. All of that means that we can keep taxes on working people as low as possible. And actually, Fiona, I think one of the points which has come up from a few audience members from different angles is about that hope for the future. And I really understand that feeling of wanting to feel that things are getting better. And it can be hard because, public services had got to...
Wow, if only someone had offered change and then not delivered any fucking change. Crazy, isn't it? As if you were... imagine a party that were elected to change things, literally had Baldrick dancing in the streets in favour of change and then refused to do any change.
Yeah, maybe don't make promises you can't keep. Really simple stuff,
A really bad stage in this country. The economy was in a really bad stage when we got into office. The level of debt was really high. It was not a good inheritance that we had, and I think everyone here knows that. That's why people voted for change. But the gentleman in the back row spoke.
But again, they didn't get that change, did they, friend? No. Hello, there's Some Random Geek. Everyone go and follow Some Random Geek on all of the platforms.
About public services improving it, so you can get your bins collected, get a doctor's appointment, you can get public services that actually work. When we came into office, we promised 2 million extra appointments in the NHS. We've delivered 5.2 million.
All right.
Public services, we want to make sure that they are improving. And so when we came into this budget and had to take decisions, we did not decide to follow the route of cutting public services and public investment. We want to give better public services for people in the future. And if I might just make one
really
final
quickly,
point.
because otherwise you're not going to get time to answer any of the other questions.
Well, I was going to come on to the other.
So the woman there in the blue stripy shirt was saying, your kids, I mean, they're adults now, but they don't feel better off and they're struggling, and yet they are the very working people that Labour is supposed to be protecting. So, and you were asking, madam, what is your definition of a working person?
Yeah, but you spoke, madam, about your
Well, she
children.
asked you that specifically. What is your definition of a working person?
Well, people who go out to work and get money on their pay slip, and we don't want the national insurance or income tax to go up.
You're not helping him.
Yeah,
I'm not
but we're
suggesting you should. I'm sure he's very well off as it is. But nonetheless, he's a working person too.
We're talking about how people get their income. So if you look at the choices that we made in the budget, if people go out to work and then pay income tax and national insurance on their income as being an employee, those rates are not going to go up. If people get their income from other sources, property, savings or dividends, we have increased that by 2p. But the reason why we've done that is to keep it as low as possible on working people. Right. But you also spoke about housing. You mentioned, I think you mentioned your children looking for somewhere to get a home. And that is such a big challenge for this country, about the next generation feeling they have hope of getting a home that they can afford.
And it's getting further and further away because you won't do anything. You promised to build 1.5 million homes, which wouldn't be a fucking scratch on the problem really anyway. And you don't even have spades in the ground 18 months in.
Like, affordable house building in London is going down.
Amazing.
And that's the place where the highest demand for new affordable or council housing is, you know?
Yeah.
Partly that's Sadiq Khan's fault, and partly that's the issue that London councils are staffed by NIMBYs. Like, a Labour fucking council in Wandsworth, like, turned down planning permission for a giant fucking tower block, of which a third of which would be council housing. I genuinely lose my mind. Like, is it like you're not building on the green belt if you build a tower block in the centre of fucking London? I'm sorry, it is ridiculous the level to which we refuse to build housing. At this point, we need to go full Hong Kong. We need to turn into these giant fucking Kowloon walled city style tower blocks to ensure that we at least get the high enough density to make the housing affordable that doesn't impact like land values so much and doesn't expand cities further than they need to do so when we're a nature depleted country. Give me the commie blocks. The people demand commie blocks.
Yes. Khrushchevka, immediately.
And that is why we are so determined to build those homes. Now, this means getting
But
planning
you're
regulations.
massively
No, this
behind
means
on
getting
building the
planning
homes.
regulations which are in the way of building out of the way. And not everyone
The number
finds
of
that
homes
popular.
being built every
We
year
have
has
to get those
fallen
planning regulations
since you
that are
came to
blocking new
power.
homes out of the way so we can get homes built.
Can I just...
We will come to housing, so let's park that idea for now, but go on just quickly. Sorry.
Well, just on young people, one thing in the budget, for example, is that the state pension has gone up because of the triple lock, but the threshold at which young people have to repay their student loans has been frozen. Now, graduates in their 20s and 30s pay an extra 9 percentage points of income tax. That's basically what it is above the threshold. And that threshold has been frozen. There are people in their 20s who will never own their own homes. They're going to get to retirement in the private rented sector. It's overpriced, it's bad value, they're not going to have enough money in their pension, and all of a sudden they're not going to have anywhere to live because they haven't bought a house and they haven't paid off their mortgage.
Pause as well.
Young people are...
And it's the people who are receiving the state pension in lots of cases who are having their extra house paid for them by those renters. They are buying an extra house for free for another pensioner who they're also going to have to pay more for the state pension for as well. It is totally insane. The marginal tax rate for some people on like normal median income levels because of the student loan repayment kicking in is over 70%. 70%!
That's mental.
And that's not unlike people earning 150k, that's on people earning like 50k.
And you know who Sonia blames for that? Trans people.
Trans people. And what's crazy as well is that, like, there are people leaving this country again, and like over like 70% of the net of the overall people who left who are British nationals, 70% of them are under the age of 35.
Mad. That's the real. That's the real brain drain.
Yep.
It's not billionaires. It's people who see a system killing itself, trying to pretend that it can still work.
But don't worry, like fucking Simon and Linda are off on P&O cruises tomorrow.
Yippee!
Facing a crisis in terms of the world they're going out into. It is a very harsh world for young people. And my worry is that all of the political parties are just tinkering at the edges of this at the same time as they are spending more and more on the state pension, which is a lovely thing to do. It's good, but the triple lock has played its function. The state pension has gone up a lot in recent years, and I think we need to start prioritising young people, and I don't see any of the parties doing that.